In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind.
Time for our Eye on the SEC. We bring in from Nashville, covers the Vanderbilt Commodores for the Tennessean. Jeff Lockridge joins us here on the new Sentinel Sports page. Hey, Jeff, Vince Ferrara, Brendan Quinn. How you doing this morning, Jeff?
Hey, good to be with you. Ready for some basketball?
Yeah. Boy, you talk about how we could easily go the wrong way with this discussion. But we won't bring it down with basketball on both ends with Tennessee and Vandy.
I understand that.
Yeah, but a couple minutes on spring football. We played a little bit of your cut. You talked to James Franklin and a couple of the quarterbacks competing for that spot. If you could, before you get into the whole battle, talk about covering Patton Robinette, who's, of course, a local kid here in the Knoxville area.
Well, got to see Patton, of course, last spring, and I think it benefited him greatly by being a January enrollee last year. So he's been through one of these spring practice sessions before. Thought he made good strides by the time fall camp came around. We only got to watch practice for about 10 minutes every Wednesday during the season. James closes it off pretty much to the media during the season, so we didn't get to see quite as much of Patton and how much he progressed over the season, but watching him
Lost Jeff there. Jeff, you back with us?
Yeah, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you're in a tough sell spot, but go ahead. You were telling us you didn't get a chance to see as much of practice as last we heard.
Yeah, just during the season, but did watch him Tuesday night. Thought he looked pretty good in the team's third spring practice. I think he carries himself, with a little more confidence now. And obviously he's a physical specimen. He's a big body back there, and he's got a strong arm. For him, it's just going to be a matter of development and going through the reads a little quicker, knowing what he should do with the ball on each play. He still underthrows the deep ball a little bit more than I think the coaches would like, but the potential is certainly there, and you can see it all over him.
So do you think, we're visiting with Jeff Lockridge from the Tennessean, covers Vanderbilt, getting our SEC spring preview of the Commodores. So you think Austin Carter-Samuels, the former Wyoming quarterback, was there last year, you think he is the leader for that starting job right now?
I think he is the undisputed leader for the starting job. I think there's a decent gap. I don't see that gap closing by the start of the season. To be perfectly honest, the only way I see Patton overtaking Austin this year is if Austin gets off to a slow start in the first couple of games, and then they decide to make a change during the season. I think Austin's 2 years of starting at Wyoming before he transferred, being the backup last year. He's got a deceptively strong arm for being a little guy. He's a little bit more mobile in the pocket. He can certainly tuck it and run if he needs to, but I like what I'm seeing from him so far.
Visiting with Jeff Lockridge from the Tennessean about Vanderbilt in spring practice. Jeff, a couple other things real quick. The early enrollees, James Franklin said this is our best class. What about the guys that are in there early, and what are you looking for from those guys?
Well, last year we saw four true freshmen play. Mm-hmm. So, even though this may be his best signing class, and certainly was in terms of the recruiting rankings, I still don't know how many are actually going to get on the field. They're trying to build depth, and you do that by redshirting a lot of these kids. I think you're going to see maybe a couple of the defensive linemen get into the mix, maybe a linebacker or two. Perhaps Raphael Webb, the running back out of Florida, if he really impresses in fall camp when he gets here. It's going to be interesting to see, but I think they've got enough coming back to where they won't have to rely too heavily on the freshmen this year.
What are some other storylines you're really looking for in spring practice, things that you're looking maybe to get answers to?
Yeah, I think aside from the quarterback position, the running back position's obviously caught some people's eye. You lose Zach Stacy, who's the program's leading rusher, coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and you've got to find a way to replace him. I don't know if they can do it with one guy. It takes better SEC pounding over the course of the season. But they've got Jerron Seymour, who redshirted last year after a surgery. He was Zach's backup 2 years ago. They got Brian Kimbrough, the speedster from Memphis. Not enough a big enough body type to be in there every sort of down, but you got to get him some carries because he could break it on any play. So I see that being kind of a by committee this year. And then the rest of Vanderbilt's offense is in pretty good shape, guys. If they get Austin Carter-Samuels to play, 80-90% of what Jordan Rogers was last year, they're going to win a lot of ball games with Jordan Matthews and Chris Boyd back at receiver and an improved and deeper offensive line.
Yo, Jeff. So do you have a feature on your phone that sets off an alarm every time James Franklin sends out a tweet? Because it seems like it's a hellstorm. It seems like there's a hellstorm every single time.
This way. If I did, I would probably turn that off.
Now, and on that note, you've seen a lot of Vanderbilt football and many down times, and now this continues. This run with James Franklin continues. How different is the vibe around the facility, around the university, and those players now as opposed to what you've seen in the past?
It's completely different. I took over this beat immediately after the 2008 Music City Bowl win, and the team almost instantly went in the tank with a pair of back-to-back 2-10 seasons, and went through 3 head coaches in the span of 7 months, from Bobby stepping down to Robbie Caldwell stepping in, and then James coming in. So it was helter-skelter there for a while, and the vibe was very poor. There was no momentum at all. Players certainly didn't carry themselves in a winning manner. The university didn't seem to care, and now, guys, it's as they like to say, it's become almost a football school. This has always been a basketball school and secondarily a baseball school. And it has become, in 2 years, it has become a football school.
What's the win range, do you think, for this team potentially?
8-9. I think they can get 8-9. They went 3-1 in the non-con last year with a loss to Northwestern, and then 5-3 in the SEC. I don't know if they can stay at 5-3 in the SEC because they add Texas A&M to their schedule this year, so they don't get those two. You don't want to call them cupcakes, but they did have Auburn and Ole Miss from the West last year. Makes it a little tougher, but I think they can go 4-0 in the non-con and maybe get back to 9 wins.
Jeff, really appreciate it. You can find Jeff's work covering the Vanderbilt Commodores and the Tennessean. See his work here locally as well. Jeff, really appreciate you. Great to talk to you. Have a super rest of the week. We'll catch up with you again soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks. It's Jeff Lockridge from the Tennessean. Good work covering the Vanderbilt Commodores.